The hall was nothing short of breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers cascaded from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls, their golden lights spilling across the polished marble floors. Every surface gleamed, from the towering glass pillars to the long banquet tables draped in silk and silver. Soft orchestral music floated through the air, blending with laughter, clinking champagne glasses, and the low hum of powerful conversations. This wasn't just a party. It was a gathering of wealth, dominance, bloodlines, alphas, nobles, pack elites from territories Sienna had only ever heard about in whispered conversations. Even the air felt different here, heavier, scented with expensive perfume and wolf pheromones strong enough to make her pulse stumble. And standing at the very edge of all that magnificence, she felt painfully out of place. Sienna adjusted the plain black dress clinging to her body, the uniform the event agency had handed her barely an hour ago. It wasn't made for her size. The heels on her feet were half a size too small. Her hair, hastily pinned into a bun, had already begun loosening at the sides. She looked nothing like the women gliding across the ballroom in designer gowns and diamonds that caught the chandelier light like stars. They shimmered. She existed. Invisible. Or at least, she tried to be. Balancing a silver tray of champagne flutes, Sienna moved carefully through the crowd, keeping her gaze lowered the way staff were expected to. Serve, smile, leave, no conversations, no eye contact, no mistakes, because one mistake in a hall filled with wolves could cost more than her job. "Watch where you're going." The voice was sharp, laced with the kind of superiority that didn't need to try. Sienna stopped instantly. She hadn't bumped into anyone, but the woman standing before her looked offended simply by Sienna's presence. Tall, blonde, dressed in a crimson gown that hugged her body like liquid fire. A pure-blood wolf. The aura alone made that obvious. Her eyes scanned Sienna from head to toe slowly, then curled with disgust. "Oh," the woman muttered to her friends, loud enough for Sienna to hear. "She's staff." Soft laughter rippled around them. Sienna lowered her gaze politely. "I'm sorry, ma'am." She tried to move past, but the woman stepped into her path again. "Wait." Sienna's fingers tightened slightly around the tray. The surrounding wolves had begun watching now, amusement flickering in their predatory eyes. What pack do you belong to?" the woman asked. Sienna hesitated. "I don't belong to a pack." A pause, then louder laughter. "Of course you don't," another woman chimed in. "Look at her. She smells human." The word human dropped like an insult. Heat crept up Sienna's neck, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm just working tonight." "Working," the blonde repeated mockingly. "So they're letting humans serve at Alpha gatherings now? How progressive." More laughter. One of them leaned closer, sniffing the air near Sienna's neck exaggeratedly. "Careful," she smirked. "You might get eaten if you wander too far from the kitchen." The group burst into giggles. Sienna forced a small professional smile, the kind workers wore when dignity had to be swallowed for survival. "I should continue serving, ma'am." She stepped sideways. This time they let her pass, but the laughter followed her across the hall, clinging to her skin heavier than the tray she carried. She should have been used to it by now. The looks, the whispers, the way wolves always seemed to look through her rather than at her. A human girl working in wolf territories would always be beneath them. But tonight felt worse, because this wasn't just any wolf gathering. This was the Alpha Summit celebration, an event where the most powerful alphas across the Northern Territories gathered under one roof, meaning every gaze here carried dominance, every scent carried power, and hers carried none. Sienna had just reached the refreshment table when the atmosphere shifted. It was subtle at first. Conversations dimmed, laughter softened, even the orchestra seemed to falter for half a note. Then she felt it. A pressure in the air. Heavy, commanding. Predatory enough to make her heartbeat stumble. She didn't need to turn around to know. An alpha had entered, but not just any alpha. This presence was darker, sharper, dangerously magnetic. Curiosity pulled at her despite herself, and before she could stop it, she turned. That was when she saw him. Tall, impossibly so. Broad shoulders sculpted beneath a tailored black suit. Dark hair falling slightly over piercing eyes that glowed faintly under the chandelier lights. His face was unfairly beautiful, the kind that made women stare and men step aside instinctively. But it wasn't just his looks. It was the energy around him. Wild, untamed, playful, yet lethal, like a wolf that smiled before it bit. Women were already gravitating toward him. Laughter, touches, admiration offered freely. He accepted it all with lazy confidence, untouchable, unbothered, dangerous. Someone leaned toward Sienna behind the refreshment table and whispered, "That's Alpha Kael Draven." Her breath caught slightly. Of course she'd heard the name. Everyone had. The Playboy Alpha, heartbreaker, mate rejecter, the alpha who refused to be tied down by any she-wolf, no matter her rank or beauty. And now he was here, walking straight in her direction. Sienna quickly lowered her gaze, focusing on arranging glasses. Don't look, don't engage, serve and move. But his presence grew closer and closer, until the air itself felt charged. A shadow fell across the table, then a deep voice, smooth like aged whiskey, spoke right in front of her. "Champagne." She reached for a flute immediately, keeping her eyes lowered as she placed it on his tray. "Yes, Alpha." But instead of taking the glass, he didn't move. Seconds passed, too many seconds, slowly, against her better judgment. Her eyes lifted and met his. His gaze was already on her. Not casually, not dismissively, intensely, like he'd been studying her before she even looked up. A slow smirk curved his lips. "Well," he murmured, "you're new." Heat crept up her neck again, but this time it wasn't from humiliation. "I'm just working tonight, Alpha." His eyes darkened slightly at her voice. "Human," he said softly, not insultingly, but thoughtfully. She straightened. "Yes." He finally took the champagne glass, but his fingers brushed hers intentionally as he did. A spark shot up her arm so suddenly she almost dropped the tray. His smirk widened. "Careful," he said. You look like you might faint." "I'm fine." He sipped his drink slowly, eyes never leaving her face. "You don't look fine. You look cornered." Her jaw tightened slightly. "I'm working, Alpha. That's all." He tilted his head, amused. "And yet you're glaring at me like you want to bite." The audacity, the arrogance, it slipped out before she could stop herself. "Only if you give me a reason to." Silence. Then, a low chuckle rumbled from his chest. Dark, interested. "Oh," he murmured, "she has teeth." Her pulse jumped. She'd just spoken back to one of the most powerful alphas alive, but instead of anger, his eyes gleamed with intrigue. And that was the moment everything began to go wrong. Chapter 2. Bound by Moon Law. The hall no longer looked beautiful. Not from where Sienna stood. What had once shimmered with music and golden light now felt suffocating, heavy with tension, whispers, and the crushing weight of a mistake that could not be undone. She stood at the center of the ceremonial platform, her pulse still racing from the ritual confusion that had unfolded minutes earlier. The ancient moon altar glowed faintly beneath her feet, the silver markings still burning where her blood had fallen. Beside her stood Alpha Kael Draven, rigid, silent, furious. The ceremonial ring on her finger pulsed with a warmth she could still feel in her veins, a bond sealed before witnesses, elders, and the moon itself. She hadn't even realized what was happening until it was too late, until the vow words were spoken, until the blood oath sealed, until the elders stepped forward. The bond is complete. The voice of the head elder echoed through the stunned hall. Sienna's breath caught. She turned toward the semicircle of robed elders, hope flickering weakly in her chest. "There has to be a mistake," she said quickly, her voice steadier than she felt. "I wasn't part of the ceremony. I was serving drinks. I didn't agree to anything." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but the elder's expression did not soften. "The moon does not recognize accidents," he replied calmly. "Blood was offered, vows were spoken, witnesses were present." His gaze flickered between her and Kael. "The marriage stands." Silence crashed down like thunder. Sienna's fingers curled slightly at her sides. "No," she whispered. "No, you can undo it, right? There has to be an annulment, a reversal ritual, something." The elders exchanged glances. Then the head elder spoke again, slower this time, final. "Moonbound marriages cannot be annulled." Her heart dropped. "Only death, or rejection before the first full moon." The words hung in the air like a blade. She felt the shift beside her before she saw it. Kael moved. Fury rolled off him in suffocating waves. "This is absurd," he said coldly, his voice carrying alpha command that silenced the entire hall. "I did not consent to this farce. I don't take human wives." Sienna flinched slightly, though she hated herself for it. The elder did not bow to his anger. "Consent was given when the vow was repeated, Alpha Draven." His jaw flexed sharply. "That ritual was meant for another she-wolf." "And yet," the elder said, all gesturing toward Sienna's glowing ring, "the moon chose differently." Kael's gaze snapped to her then. Dark, unreadable, burning with restrained frustration. For a brief second, something primal flickered in his eyes, something that made her stomach tighten in confusion. But it vanished just as quickly. "This marriage will not be recognized by my pack," he said flatly. "It already is," the elder replied. "The bond has been witnessed by all present alphas. To deny it would be to defy moon law itself." A dangerous silence followed. Even Sienna could feel the political weight behind those words. If he rejected the bond publicly, it would spark conflict among the territories, his reputation, his authority, his standing as alpha. All of it hung in the balance. Her voice came out quieter this time. "I don't want this either." His eyes flickered back to hers. "Good," she thought bitterly. "Let him hear it." "I didn't ask to be tied to you," she continued. "So whatever solution you're planning, make it fast. I want my freedom." Something in his expression hardened further. "You'll have it," he said, but the elder stepped in again. "Until the first full moon passes, you are bound to reside within Alpha Draven's territory, as his Luna." Sienna blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "For the bond to stabilize," the elder continued calmly, "proximity is required. Separation could cause physical backlash to both parties." She stared at them, then at Kael. "You're saying I have to live with him?" "Yes." Kael looked just as displeased as she felt. The journey to his mansion was silent, painfully silent. Sienna sat in the back seat of the sleek black vehicle, hands clasped tightly in her lap, trying to process the reality that had overturned her life in a single night. Married. To the most notorious alpha alive. Beside her, Kael's presence filled the space, intense even in stillness. He hadn't looked at her once since they left the hall, but she could feel him, every breath, every shift, every flicker of heat rolling off his body. It was overwhelming. The moment they stepped into the Alpha mansion, it hit her. His scent. It wrapped around her senses instantly, dark woods, smoke, and something wild beneath it. Her pulse stumbled. The bond ring on her finger warmed. She inhaled instinctively and regretted it immediately because it smelled good, too good. Her body reacted before her mind could stop it, a strange pull low in her chest, like gravity tilting toward him. She stiffened. No, absolutely not. Kael noticed. His steps slowed slightly ahead of her, then he turned. His eyes had darkened, pupils blown wider than before. His nostrils flared once, twice, like he was testing the air, testing her. The silence between them thickened, predatory, confusing, dangerously intimate. For a brief moment, his gaze dropped to her throat, then to the ring, then back to her eyes. His jaw tightened sharply. His wolf stirred beneath the surface. She could see it now, feel it, recognize it in the way the air vibrated around him. Recognition, claim, mate instinct rising, the bond pulling. But Kael stepped back instead, hard, like he was physically rejecting the pull. "This changes nothing," he said coldly. The warmth from the bond faltered slightly. "You are here because moon law demands it, nothing more." His voice dropped lower. "My wolf may recognize the bond." His eyes hardened into steel. "But I don't." Chapter 3. The Playboy Alpha's rules. The rules were given the morning after she arrived. Not gently, not kindly, but with the same cold authority Kael used when issuing pack commands. They stood in his private study, a room lined with dark oak shelves, territorial maps, and the heavy scent of alpha dominance that never seemed to fade. Sienna remained near the door. He stood behind his desk. Distance, intentional, calculated. "This arrangement," he began flatly, "exists because moon law demands it, not because I want it." She folded her arms slightly but said nothing. "So we establish boundaries now." His gaze lifted to hers, sharp, unreadable. No touching. Her stomach flipped, unexpected, unwanted. No claiming. The Luna ring on her finger pulsed faintly. No emotional expectations, no marital assumptions. "You will not share my bed. You will not present yourself as my mate outside what is politically necessary." Each word landed like ice. "You are here as a legal obligation," he finished. "Nothing more." She swallowed the sting rising in her chest. "Good," she replied coolly, "because I don't want anything from you either." A lie. Not a big one. But not entirely true either. And that annoyed her more than his rules did. His eyes studied her for a moment, as if searching for something beneath her words. Then he nodded once. "Then we understand each other." But the bond ring warmed faintly, like it disagreed. Her introduction to the pack came later that day. If the grand hall had made her feel small, the Alpha mansion made her feel microscopic. Pack members lined the courtyard as Kael walked beside her. Warriors, elders, beranked wolves whose eyes followed her every step. Whispers moved through them like wind through grass. Human. She's the one? The accidental Luna? Kael's presence beside her was overwhelming, dominant enough that no one openly disrespected her. But the judgment was there. Heavy. Unhidden. The she-wolves were worse. They gathered in silk dresses and polished smiles that never reached their eyes. One of them stepped forward, tall, silver-haired, beautiful in the way wolves often were. "So this is her," she said lightly, circling Sienna slowly. "The human bride." Sienna kept her chin lifted. "I didn't ask for the marriage." The woman smiled wider. Neither did he. Soft laughter rose behind her. "You smell fragile," another added. "Can humans even survive mating bonds?" "And look at her dress," a third murmured. Our Alpha rejected nobles for this?" Sienna's fingers curled slightly at her sides, but she refused to react, refused to give them the satisfaction. That was when she noticed it, the way some of them looked at Kael, not respectfully, possessively. One woman in particular, dark curls, crimson lips, stepped closer than the others. She didn't look at Sienna, only at him. "You disappeared after the summit," she said softly. "You owe me a dance, Kael." The familiarity in her tone twisted something low in Sienna's stomach before she could stop it. Jealousy, sharp, confusing, ridiculous. She barely knew the man. He'd made it clear he didn't want her. So why did it bother her? Seeing another woman look at him like that? Kael didn't respond immediately. His gaze flickered briefly toward Sienna, just for a second, before returning to the woman. "Not tonight, Lyra." Lyra. The name alone sounded intimate. The she-wolf pouted slightly. "You used to enjoy my company." Sienna looked away before her expression could betray her thoughts. She hated the warmth rising in her chest, hated the image forming in her mind of him with other women. Why should it matter? She told herself. He's the Playboy Alpha. Of course he has lovers. She stepped back slightly, intending to leave the courtyard and escape the suffocating tension. But she didn't make it far. A visiting alpha, older, broader, intercepted her path. "Well now," he rumbled, eyes scanning her openly. "So this is Draven's accidental Luna." Sienna stiffened. His gaze lingered too long, too boldly. He stepped closer, invading her space without permission. "Human, are you?" he mused. "Fragile little thing." She forced politeness. "Excuse me, Alpha." But he didn't move. Instead, he reached out. His fingers closed lightly around her wrist. The reaction was instant. A violent, guttural growl tore through the courtyard. Not from the visiting Alpha, from Kael. The sound froze every wolf present. It wasn't playful. It wasn't controlled. It was territorial, primal, deadly. Sienna's breath caught as Kael moved, fast enough that she barely saw it happen. 1 second he stood across the courtyard. The next, he was beside her. His hand wrapped around the visiting Alpha's wrist, forcing it away from her with dangerous calm. "Don't touch what's mine," he said quietly. The temperature in the courtyard dropped. Sienna's heart slammed against her ribs. Because the words hadn't sounded political, they'd sounded instinctive, possessive, wolf. Kael seemed to realize it seconds later. His jaw tightened. He released the other Alpha immediately, stepping back like he'd crossed a line he hadn't meant to. The courtyard remained silent, watching, waiting. Sienna's pulse still raced, his growl echoing in her chest. Confusion swirled with something warmer, something that looked dangerously like relief. He didn't look at her again, didn't explain, didn't apologize, but his wolf lingered close to the surface, restless, alert, watching anyone who stepped too near her. And for the first time since the marriage, Sienna realized something that made her breath unsteady. Maybe the bond wasn't one-sided. Chapter 4. When Pretending Feels Real. Public appearances began 3 days after the marriage. There was no escaping them. A Luna, accidental or not, had duties. Ceremonies, packed dinners, territory visits, standing beside Kael in front of ranked wolves who watched their every movement like hawks searching for weakness. Which meant one thing. They had to pretend. "Stay close," he murmured before they entered the grand assembly hall. His hand rested lightly at the small of her back, the first time he had touched her since setting his rules, even through the fabric of her dress. The contact burned. "Remember," he continued quietly, "they're watching for cracks. We show unity, nothing more." Sienna nodded, but her body had already betrayed her. Her pulse quickened, her breathing shallowed, because his hand hadn't moved. And neither had the heat pooling low in her stomach. The hall welcomed them with respectful bows. "Alpha Draven." "Luna." The word still felt unreal every time it was spoken to her. Kael's arm slid more firmly around her waist as they walked, protective, possessive, convincing. Too convincing. Every step made her more aware of him, the solid warmth of his body beside hers, the scent of dark woods and smoke wrapping around her senses, the bond ring pulsing faintly like a second heartbeat. The dance was inevitable. It always was at pack gatherings, when the music shifted to something slower, older, ceremonial. All eyes turned toward them. Kael exhaled quietly. "Play your role, Sienna." Before she could respond, he took her hand. The moment their palms met, the bond ignited. A spark shot up her arm so fast she inhaled sharply. His eyes flickered. He felt it too, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he guided her to the center of the floor. One hand clasped hers, the other settled at her waist. Closer this time, closer than before. The music began, slow, measured, ancient. They moved instinctively, wolves and mates dancing under moon witness, her body aligned with his too easily, like it had always known how to fit there. His hand at her waist tightened slightly as they turned. Her free hand rested against his shoulder, and she felt the strength coiled beneath his suit. Her pulse stumbled. His scent surrounded her completely now, warm, masculine, dangerously intoxicating. She forced herself to look up. Big mistake. His gaze was already on her. Not cold this time, not distant, dark, heavy, lingering far longer than it should have. The world around them blurred, music, wolves, chandeliers fading into background noise. All she could feel was him, the heat of his palm, the slow rise and fall of his chest, the way his thumb brushed absent circles against her waist without realizing it. His jaw flexed slightly, like he was fighting something inside himself. "You're trembling," he murmured. "So are you," she whispered back. Silence stretched between them, charged, electric. As they turned again, her body brushed fully against his, chest to chest, hip to hip. The contact stole the breath from her lungs. His grip tightened instantly, reflex, not choice. His head dipped slightly, closer to her neck. She felt his inhale, felt it all the way down her spine. The reaction was immediate, warmth flooding her veins, her knees weakening slightly beneath the intensity of it. And then she felt it. Not physical, emotional. A flicker beneath his dominance, loneliness. It slipped through the bond like an accidental confession. Years of detachment, walls built from betrayal and empty pleasure. Women who wanted his title, but never him. Her gaze softened before she could stop it. He saw it, and something in his expression cracked. His hand slid from her waist to her lower back, pulling her flush against him. The move was possessive, instinctive, unplanned. A quiet gasp left her lips as their bodies aligned completely. His eyes darkened at the sound. His wolf surged forward. She could feel it in the air, in the bond, in the way his control thinned. Slowly, dangerously. His head lowered toward her neck, toward the mating mark point pulsing beneath her skin. Her breath hitched. Her fingers curled slightly into his suit. The world disappeared. There was only heat, only bond, only the magnetic pull dragging them together. His lips hovered just above her skin, close enough that she felt his breath, felt the graze of his fangs barely threatening the surface. Her body reacted instantly, arching slightly toward him despite her mind screaming otherwise. The marking instinct roared between them, claim, mate, bond, and then he stopped. His entire body went rigid. Control slammed back into place like a locked door. He pulled away sharply, breathing heavier than before. His eyes avoided hers. The dance continued, but the air between them had changed forever. Chapter 5. Enemies of the Luna. The first attempt on Sienna's life came quietly. Too quietly. If she hadn't stepped onto the balcony for air, she might never have seen it coming. The night was calm, moonlight washing the Alpha Mansion gardens in silver. The pack celebration continued inside, music and laughter drifting faintly through the open doors behind her. She had needed space, needed distance from Kael after the dance, from the almost marking that still burned on her skin like a phantom touch. She rested her hands lightly on the balcony railing, and that was when the wind shifted. The scent hit her first. Not wolf, not pack, something foreign, sharp, hostile. Before her mind could process it, movement flashed from the shadows. A blade glinted in the moonlight. Fast, aimed straight for her heart. She didn't even have time to scream. A blur of black intercepted the attack mid-air. The assassin's body slammed violently into the stone wall with a sickening crack. The balcony doors shattered open behind her. And then Kael's roar tore through the night. She had never seen him like that before. Not controlled, not political, feral. His eyes glowed molten gold, fangs fully bared, aura exploding outward in lethal dominance. The assassin tried to recover, but Kael was already on him. Claws, teeth, pure alpha rage. He moved like a storm given flesh, brutal, merciless, terrifying. Blood stained the marble within seconds. The attacker didn't stand a chance. By the time pack warriors flooded the balcony, it was over. Kael stood over the body, chest heaving, claws still half extended, but he didn't look at them. He looked at her, and the fury in his eyes shifted instantly into something far more dangerous. Fear. He crossed the distance in seconds. His hands gripped her shoulders, firm, searching, almost rough. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, still trying to steady her breathing. I didn't even see him until..." His hands moved, checking her arms, her waist, her neck, instinctive, possessive, relieved only when he confirmed she was untouched. His forehead almost dropped to hers before he caught himself. The pack elders arrived shortly after. The assassin's body was turned, symbols carved into his skin, ancient, forbidden. One elder inhaled sharply, then spoke words that chilled the air around them. "This was not random." Kael's voice dropped into lethal calm. "Explain." The elder hesitated, then said it anyway. "There is an old prophecy, long dismissed as myth." Silence stretched tight. "The human Luna of the blood moon." Sienna frowned slightly. "I don't understand." The elder's gaze settled on her ring, then her eyes. When a human female is bound to an alpha under blood moon witness, she becomes more than Luna. Kael stiffened beside her. She becomes power incarnate, a bridge between wolf and mortal bloodlines, feared, hunted. The elder's voice lowered. Many would kill to prevent her rise. The room fell silent. Sienna felt the weight of their stares like chains. "This is insane," she whispered. "I'm not part of any prophecy." But Kael hadn't spoken. His gaze remained locked on the assassin's body, fury building again beneath his skin. Because prophecy or not, someone had tried to kill what was his. She didn't return to her assigned Luna chambers that night. Kael made sure of that. "You're moving," he said flatly. "Moving where?" "My quarters." Her breath caught slightly. "That's not necessary. I'll be fine with guards." "No." The word left no room for argument. His jaw flexed. "You were targeted inside my territory. Until I know who's behind it, you stay where I can see you." His private quarters were larger than her entire old apartment. Dark wood, stone fireplace, massive bed at the center. She hesitated just inside the doorway. "You said we wouldn't share space." His back remained to her as he removed his jacket. "That was before someone tried to put a blade through your heart." Sleeping proved impossible, not because she was afraid, because of him. He stayed in the room, pacing at first, restless. Protective instincts still too close to the surface. Eventually, he lay on the far side of the bed, distance carefully maintained. But the bond had other ideas. She felt it first. A pull. Subtle at first, like gravity shifting, her body relaxing despite herself, her breathing sinking unconsciously with his. Minutes passed, then more, and slowly, without meaning to. She drifted closer in her sleep. She woke briefly to warmth at her back, strong arms loosely around her waist. Kael, his face buried lightly against her hair, not possessive, not sexual, instinctive, protective, asleep. She stilled, not wanting to wake him, because for the first time, the Playboy Alpha looked peaceful. Morning came with realization. He hadn't moved all night, hadn't released her. His wolf had kept her close, even in sleep. And when he finally stirred, his grip tightened instinctively. Chapter 6. The Alpha Who Fell First. Something in Kael changed after the assassination attempt. It wasn't obvious at first. He still gave orders, still carried that cold alpha authority, still spoke to pack members with calculated distance. But around Sienna, the mask had started cracking. She noticed it in the way his eyes followed her now, not casually, not politically, intently, like he was tracking her movements without meaning to, across halls, across courtyards, across rooms filled with wolves. If she laughed, his gaze lifted. If she walked away, his body tensed slightly. If another male spoke too close, the air around him darkened. The realization came one evening in the strategy hall. A visiting she-wolf, tall, seductive, clearly familiar with Kael, approached him, while Sienna stood reviewing territory maps nearby. Her voice was soft, flirtatious. "I heard you've been avoiding me," she murmured, fingers trailing lightly along his arm. Sienna told herself she didn't care, told herself to focus on the maps, but her ears strained anyway. Kael didn't respond immediately. His body had gone still, too still, slowly, deliberately. He removed the woman's hand from his arm. "I'm not entertaining company right now." The she-wolf blinked in surprise. "You've never had that problem before." His jaw flexed slightly. That was before. Before what? Sienna's heart beat louder than it should have. The she-wolf leaned closer anyway, provocative, testing. "You used to say you didn't believe in mates," she whispered. Sienna hated the way the words hit her chest, but Kael's response came low, strained. "I still don't." Yet he stepped back another inch. Distance, clear, intentional. And that was when Sienna understood something he hadn't said aloud. He wasn't avoiding the woman because he wanted to. He was avoiding her because he couldn't stand her touch anymore. Later that night, he found Sienna alone on the moon terrace. The air between them was already charged before he spoke. "You shouldn't wander unguarded." She leaned lightly against the railing. "I wasn't wandering. I just needed quiet." Silence settled, but it wasn't peaceful. It pulsed. "You were watching earlier," she said finally. His gaze shifted to her. "I watch everything." "Not like that." A pause. Then she added softly, "You don't touch them anymore." His jaw tightened immediately. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then he exhaled slowly, like the words cost him something. "I can't." Her breath stilled. "What do you mean you can't?" His eyes darkened, frustration flickering beneath the surface. "I mean," he said quietly, "my wolf won't let me." The words landed heavier than any confession. He stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that she felt the heat of him. "Every time another woman gets near me, the bond reacts." His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then back to her eyes. "It feels wrong." Her pulse stumbled. Wrong. Because of her. "I tried ignoring it," he continued. "Tried forcing it. That's what I've always done." His voice lowered. "But now, it feels like betrayal." The raw honesty in his tone made her chest tighten. "Betrayal to who?" she asked softly. His eyes held hers. "To you." Silence thickened around them. The bond pulsed warm between their bodies, alive, aware, listening. "I never wanted a mate," he admitted quietly. "Never wanted the leash that comes with it." His voice dropped further. "But now that the bond exists..." His hand lifted slowly, hesitating inches from her waist. "I can't seem to breathe when you're too far from me." Her breath caught as his hand finally settled lightly at her side. Not possessive, not controlled, instinctive. Heat shot through her instantly, deeper than before, stronger than before. Because this time, he wasn't pretending. "You feel it too," he murmured. She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Her body had already betrayed her, leaning closer, drawn by the gravity of him. His other hand rose slowly, brushing her hair back from her neck. The gesture was gentle, almost reverent, but the desire behind it burned. His eyes darkened as he looked at her throat, at the place he'd almost marked before. "You're driving my wolf insane," he whispered. Her lips parted slightly. "Then control him." A dangerous smile flickered across his face. "I've been trying." He pulled her closer then, slow enough to stop if she resisted. She didn't. Their bodies aligned, heat, breath, bond merging into one charged space. His forehead rested lightly against hers. His voice dropped to a rough murmur. "I fell first, didn't I?" The admission vibrated through her chest. The bond surged suddenly, eyes powerful, electric. It wasn't just him reacting anymore. Her own wolf, dormant, impossible, human-born, stirred violently beneath her skin. She gasped softly, clutching his shirt as energy rippled through her veins. His eyes widened slightly. "You feel that?" She nodded, breath unsteady. "It's like something's waking up." The air around them pulsed faintly with silver light. Power, raw, ancient, flickered beneath her skin. Kael stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time, not as a human, not as an accident, but as something far more dangerous, far more powerful. His voice dropped to awe-laced disbelief. "The prophecy—" Her pulse thundered. "What about it?" His thumb brushed lightly over her Luna ring, reverent now. "If this is just the bond awakening." His eyes lifted back to hers. "Then when the blood moon rises—" Chapter 7. The Luna he never wanted. The betrayal came from within. It always did. Enemies outside the territory were expected, predictable, but the knife that cuts deepest is the one held by someone standing inside your walls. The attack began during the Blood Moon Summit. All alphas had gathered, a rare, powerful assembly meant to witness Sienna's stabilization as Luna, ceremonial, political, sacred, which made it the perfect moment to strike. She felt the shift before the violence started. The air turned wrong, heavy, charged with hostility disguised as obedience. Her instincts, newly awakened, newly sharpened, flared violently inside her chest. "Kael," she murmured softly beside him. He turned instantly. He trusted her reactions now. "What is it?" Before she could answer, the first explosion tore through the western hall. Chaos erupted instantly. Wolves shifted mid-run, guards lunged, blood hit marble within seconds. But the most shocking sight wasn't the invading rogues pouring into the summit hall. It was the pack warriors turning on their own alpha, traitors, marked with the same forbidden symbols carved into the assassin from nights before. Kael moved like war incarnate, claws out, aura unleashed, ripping through enemies with lethal precision. But there were too many, and they weren't aiming for him. They were aiming for her, the human Luna of the blood moon. A blade slipped past the defense line. Fast, poison-tipped, heading straight for Kael's unguarded side as he fought another alpha. Sienna didn't think, didn't hesitate. She moved, the moment she stepped between them. Power detonated inside her. Not fear, not adrenaline, something ancient. A silver light erupted from her body in a violent pulse that shattered weapons mid-air. The entire hall froze, because the human Luna was no longer just human. Energy rippled outward from her feet, cracking marble, forcing wolves to their knees under the weight of her rising dominance. Her eyes glowed molten silver. Her voice, when she spoke, carried Luna authority untouched for centuries. "Enough!" The word alone silenced the battlefield. Kael stared at her like he was witnessing prophecy made flesh. She moved without fear now, power flowing through her veins like moonlight given form. Traitors lunged again. She lifted her hand. They were thrown back instantly, crushed under invisible force, not killed, subdued, controlled, because her power wasn't just destructive, it commanded. The elders dropped to one knee first. Then the alphas followed, one by one, not to Kael, to her, recognition, submission, acceptance of the Luna foretold. When the final enemy fell, silence consumed the ruined hall. Kael approached her slowly, blood on his skin, awe in his eyes. Not fear, never fear, pride raw, powerful pride. "You saved us," he said quietly. She exhaled slowly, power settling beneath her skin again. "We saved each other." The marking ceremony was called immediately, not postponed, not debated, Because prophecy demanded completion under blood moon witness. The entire Alpha Assembly gathered once more, this time not for politics, but for destiny fulfilled. She stood before him in ceremonial white, no longer the poor human girl mocked in ballrooms. She stood as Luna, power humming beneath her skin, head high, eyes steady. As Kael approached slowly, stripped of his playboy arrogance, stripped of his emotional armor. Only the Alpha remained, only the mate. His hand lifted to her cheek, reverent now, not hesitant. "You were never supposed to be mine," he murmured. Her lips curved faintly. "Yet here I am." The bond pulsed fiercely between them, alive, complete, hungry. He stepped closer, close enough that their breaths mingled. His voice dropped lower, meant only for her. "I fought this bond. I know. I denied you. I know." His thumb brushed lightly along her jaw. "But my wolf never did." The marking was not rushed, not violent. It was deliberate, sacred. His head lowered slowly toward her neck, giving her time, giving her choice. She tilted her head willingly. Submission not from weakness, but from trust, from power choosing power. His fangs grazed her skin first, sending heat spiraling down her spine. The bond roared awake instantly. When he bit, the world exploded into silver light. Pain and pleasure fused, brief, intense, binding. His arms locked around her as the mate bond sealed fully at last. The entire Alpha Assembly bowed, not to Kael, to their Luna Queen, from accidental wife to destined ruler. Later, when the hall emptied and silence returned, he pulled her into his arms again, this time with no restraint, no rules, no distance left between them. His forehead rested against hers, voice soft, honest. "I never wanted a mate," he whispered. She smiled, slow, teasing, victorious. "Good." Her fingers curled lightly into his shirt as she leaned closer. "Because you accidentally married one.